Hello. In this session, we are going to talk about the works in the civil and the finishing end of a metro station. So in the last video, we saw the components of a metro station. And in this video, we'll be looking at what are the works that are going to come, especially when we are talking about civil works and the finishing works. We have already spoken about the casting. We have already spoken about the piers and abutments, viaducts. Now let's focus on those things which are as basic as possible but comes at the end of the project. First, let us get into the works. The first one is masonry works. Masonry works majorly is block work. Brickwork has come down by major extent in the metro stations. It's either steel structure and a ACP finish, that means aluminum composite panel finish, or it is going to be masonry works where it is going to be either concrete blocks or lightweight or AAC blocks. Of course, apart from that, there are going to be clay bricks also added based on the aesthetic preference. So once we get to know that the masonry is involved, in the last video we already shown in the masonry how mullions will come and horizontal beams are going to come. Similarly, here we need to understand the process of masonry, which is very similar to how it would work in a real estate or a residential or a commercial building as well. It is very similar. Next, we get into metal works. In metal works, we have multiple metal works starting from your stainless steel handrail, MS, mild steel handrail, fire door, emergency doors, rolling shutters, and multiple other works as well. Of course, when I say metal works, even reinforcement comes under metal works. All right. Then we have divided the civil works into flooring works. In flooring works, especially in the Indian metro aspects, it is either going to be vitrified tile, granite, or a marble based on the local abundance and the availability of the material. In southern India, you will find more of granite and vitrified tile. In the northern India, you will find marble and vitrified tile based on the availability or the access near the said vicinity of the metro station. Next, we get into waterproofing works. Waterproofing works will have multiple levels depending on the type of roofing that are provided. When we look at the ground level and the concourse level, not much of waterproofing is actually required because except the washrooms, water is not available at other spaces. That is why it becomes easier for us to provide waterproofing only in the washrooms. And in the washrooms, of course, we do membrane waterproofing or we have sealant nowadays, right from Saint Gobain, right from Pidilite, you have sealants coming which can be used for the waterproofing of washrooms as well. So for that, of course, you will need to do something of a flooring work on the roof, sorry, on the wall as well. And that is the tadoing work, right? That is called a tado. Now let's get into the waterproofing works on top. So if they have on top only the steel truss, so I'll show you that image as well. So here in the last video we saw the top portion, which is going to be steel truss. Here you can see on the platform level on top, that is the steel truss and the roof. Then you don't need to do waterproofing because it is sheet roofing with steel truss. However, if it is a RCC finish, if on the platform level, because it is going to be exposed to outside, because it doesn't have windows and doors closing the whole thing, rainwater can be assumed to come into the platform as well. That is why it is very important for us to do waterproofing on the platform level and on the roof level as well. And this is where we'll understand what kind of proofing can be done. Normally, brickbat coba proofing is done, where you have the broken bricks as the absorbents of water, or we do the membrane waterproofing, for which you have the waterproofing solutions. Next, we look at site development. In site development, we are talking about the surroundings of metro station. When we talk about metro station, it is not just the structure. It is also what is next to the structure. So you need to have paver blocks or pavements You need to make sure there is a service road. You need to make sure there is walking path. You need to make sure there is a parking space. You need to make sure that cabs can come or autos can come and drop and move on. All those works come under site development works. So this is the space apart from the space under the metro station. Normally, an elevated metro station will be right above the road. Sometimes it will be on the side of the road based on the land acquisition. So based on that, the site development varies as well. Next, we have to look at horticultural works. Again, when I say horticultural works, this is not entirely advanced horticulture. Sometimes, based on the landscaping provision in the tender document, there will be some plants that needs to be put in place. There needs to be some plantations. There need to be some lawn. So maintaining of a lawn, that also comes under horticultural works. Normally, Bermuda lawn is a type of lawn that will be used for these landscaping aspects of metro. That is just for the aesthetic purpose. If there is no space available, then of course horticultural works doesn't come in every metro station. That is again based on the availability of space. Next, we go for sanitary fitting and fixtures. Here, basic sanitary fitting, external plumbing, UPVC pipe, CPVC pipe, PVC pipe. Then the sanitary fittings in terms of taps, float traps, the tiling work, the sanitary fitting in terms of the shower basin, wash basin, male toilet, female toilet. All those things comes under the sanitary fitting and fixtures. Next, we look at drainage works. Here, when I say drainage, I will be compiling drainage with the plumbing works, where we look at the exit of the reusable water and the sewage water. So it can be rainwater plumbing, it can be sewage water plumbing, it can be external plumbing, it can be internal plumbing as well. All right, so there you will have multiple works. That expertise requires some engineers who has an experience in MEP works as well. MEP means mechanical, electrical, plumbing. All right. Then we come into painting works. If it is the clay brick, normally clay bricks are used when you want to expose the clay brick as a raw finish. Normally on that, you won't put any paint or a plaster. However, if you are using concrete blocks or lightweight blocks, then of course you go for the painting works. So you go for normally a synthetic enamel for interiors. If it is on the metal, if it is on the fabrication, we go for synthetic enamel, or we go for emulsion paints for exteriors. All right. So emulsion, you'll have multiple types of emulsion paints, multiple types of enamel paints. So those things will be managed based on the requirement of the client and the tender document. So that is something that we look at in painting works. If there is no masonry work and if it is a total steel structure, similar to how it is in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, then we'll go for ACP. ACP comes with a colored finish, and on that ACP, a polish will be done to make sure it shines for a longer time and it protects the radiations as well. Next, we look at electrical works. Electrical works are slightly higher because you have a lot of signaling and you have a lot of machineries as well. So once you have machineries and equipments, a diesel generator, a pump room, electrical works are going to be at a very high level. And this is why you need MEP experts while doing these kind of finishing works as well. A normal civil engineer might not be able to handle these advanced electrical linings. Next, we go for lighting works. Lighting, if you see, metro stations in India especially have been designed to such an extent where it is using as much natural ventilation as possible. That is why if you see ground level, of course, will have very less lightings unless it is dark 7 p.m. or morning 5:36 a.m. Concourse level will have slightly higher lightings because even though if it is open to outside, they'll have a lot of windows and louvers which will darken the space inside. Hence, there are more lightings in the concourse level. Platform will have the least lighting because one, it is above the tree height and everything. Second, you have two sides which are totally open. So you'll have a lot of light and ventilation provided. Hence, lighting is not so much required. However, because metro runs at night as well and in the early morning, you will require lighting, but minimum lighting. Next, we go for firefighting works. In firefighting works, we are talking about the sprinklers, the safety, the security of fire doors. We also have to look at the firefighting cylinders as well. So how far are we going to install it? Where are we going to give the emergency exits? Where are we going to give the fire exits and the sprinkles as well? Because in metro station, of course, because one advantage of metro station in terms of firefighting is that you have multiple exits. So that itself is a huge advantage. However, you have to make sure that during fire, we will be having heated door handles, and that is why fire doors are very much important. Next, we go for HVAC works, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning works. This has a very less scope in metro station unless and until it is central AC. But most of the metro stations in India are not centralized AC because of the open ventilation concepts. That is why centralized AC will not be working. However, split ACs will be working in your ASS, TSS rooms, signaling room, control room, and all the rooms that are going to be part in the concourse level at least. So in the concourse level, there are going to be rooms with which the ACs will be provided. However, centralized AC is still not a concept that has been used in Indian metro stations until now. These are the finishing works. There are other types of works which come under these works itself, but the payment terms of that will be different. The reason why I'll be explaining about payment terms is because there is something called as a stage payment in construction. When I talk about especially metro station, there are going to be huge amount of items or materials which will have something called a stage payment. Those materials are basically the ones which have high initial investment or rarity in finding it. All right. So then you can get around 20% of the total payment when you order the material, 20% when the delivery happens, and the rest 60% once you finish the work. This is what the stage payment looks like. So you have multiple items. This is just one example from Bangalore Metro. I was fortunate enough to be the billing manager for this as well. So I was a planning and billing manager for this project. And here you can see multiple items here, which are rare or niche, will have stage payment where we can order. And if these materials have high lead time, that means the time between the order and the delivery is very high, then also it can be considered under stage payment. So fire door, GI door, all these were high lead time because these were customized to build. So in that case, what happens is once we order, we can claim 20% or 10% of the total amount. Once it delivers, we can claim the next 20-30%, and the rest can be covered once the work has been executed. So here if you see, you have GI door, fire doors which are rare, then you have expansion joints which are again niche, then you have high investments which is mild steel, stainless steel. Similarly, very high investments which is granite, and then of course we have the raised flooring system. Raised flooring system also comes as a flooring option. This is used in rooms where there are high equipments. So just like your false roofing or false ceiling, we'll have false flooring also, which is called as raised flooring. Because below those raised flooring, you will have all the pipelines so that you don't have to walk on the pipes. That is why a false flooring will be provided as well. These are the components of metro station and the works that are provided in the civil and architectural works. In the next coming videos, we'll be looking at roles and responsibilities of engineers and managers and what each profile means in construction. See you in the next video.